We're starting with panel 4, perspectives from capacity development practitioners and researchers on emerging opportunities and challenges. I have with me Dr. Manoj Kumar Pati, who is a knowledge management specialist from KHPT. I also have two more panelists joining online, Mr. Kenneth Sim from Chandler Academy of Governance, Singapore, and Dr. G. Rameshwar Rao from Engineering Staff College of India, Hyderabad. I'll do a quick round of introduction. Welcome, Kenneth, and welcome, Dr. Rameshwar Rao. Welcome to the panel. Let me do one round of introduction, then we'll get to the panel discussion. So, Dr. Manoj, I'll start with your introduction. He is a former Emerging Voices for Global Health from 2016 cohort, and he holds a special interest in global health, health systems research, primary health care, tuberculosis, and non-communicable diseases. He is currently pursuing a PhD in social sciences from the University of Antwerp, Belgium. He has years of experience in designing and implementing capacity building programs for key stakeholders in the public health space, such as community leaders and platforms, programming implementers, and policymakers. He was instrumental in conceptualizing, designing, and developing technical training resources for providers and Gram Panchayat members in COVID management under the Grama Panchayat Amruta Arogya Abhiyana program. He also championed the rolling out of the revised service delivery and protocol implementation for the NCD Care Continuum program from the COVID perspective. He has played a key role in developing and rolling out perspective building of community health workers in NCD management during the pandemic in urban Mysuru. Welcome, Dr. Manoj. I'll introduce Mr. Kenneth Sim. Kenneth Sim is a dean of the Chandler Academy, which is the training arm of the Chandler Institute of Governance, a Singapore-headquartered non-profit organization. In this role, Kenneth sets the strategic direction for the Academy and oversees its training activities. Kenneth is a former Singapore Administrative Service Officer and held key appointments in portfolios such as higher education, workforce skills development, and environmental sustainability. He had also served as Special Assistant to the Deputy Prime Minister. Kenneth graduated from Columbia University, which he attended on a scholarship awarded by the Singapore Public Service Commission. Welcome, Kenneth. And about Dr. G. Rameshwar Rao, he is the Director of Engineering Staff College of India at Hyderabad. He has over 40 years of experience in engineering sector, water supply and sewerage in particular. He has a doctoral degree from the Osmania University at Hyderabad. He has worked with the Hyderabad Metropolitan Water Supply and Sewerage Board in various positions, including the cadre of Chief General Manager. During his tenure as chairman, Telangana State Center for the Institution of Engineers was named as the Best State Center for Best All-Round Performance for 2 years successively. Earlier, he was chosen as the first Honorable Secretary of the new Telangana State Center after bifurcation. Welcome, Dr. Rao. All right. So now you've seen the composition of the panel. It's very interesting because Mr. Kim comes from public service directly. He has been with the National Public Service of Singapore. His academy right now also works with a lot of different kinds of capacity development initiatives for government officials, public sector officials in particular, of not just Singapore, but also different countries and states. They also have a special program for African government employees. And they also have published a recent report, a global survey on public sector training. So he has a wider or a broader perspective understanding of capacity development from national level and at that level of enabling environment that we want to discuss. And if you look at Dr. G. Rameshwar Rao, he sits within the, he sits within the IEI, the Indian Engineers Institute, and he also works with a lot of different kinds of capacity development programs, not just aimed at the public sector officials, but also for scientists and engineers across different, even academia for that matter. And we are talking about different stakeholders at that level. Coming to Dr. Manoj, he works a lot more with the community level, like Anand had mentioned earlier, than the public sector servants. But he also has developed new programs for governance initiatives. So we would keep this panel a little more flexible. I would like our panelists to open with a few remarks for about 5 minutes each, so that we get a sense of where they're coming from and then take the discussion forward. Can I ask Kenneth Sim to please begin the panel, please, so we get the national level perspective. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to be at this panel discussion. It's a privilege to be here. I am from the Chandler Institute of Governance, as was mentioned. We are a non-profit organization based in Singapore. Our main role is to partner with government leaders, helping them to build stronger public sector capabilities, and in doing so, build stronger nations. We do it through 3 ways. One is training programs, so that's the part that I'm directly in charge of. Second is through developing of knowledge products, such as the Global Survey of Public Sector Training that was mentioned earlier. We also do have a index that measures government performance and government capabilities across 104 countries. And third, we also do some technical assistance projects with governments globally. We've worked a lot in Africa and Asia. Within India, we had the privilege of working with the state government in Punjab. So I'll talk more about that later on. Maybe I'll just focus a bit on what we do in terms of training. So we do a range of training programs. They can start from short professional training courses in specific sales areas. For example, we did a case writing workshop for leaders for public sector leaders in the state of Punjab with the Mahatma Gandhi State Institute of Public Administration, which are OMG SIPA. We also do longer duration leadership training programs. Many of these are cohort-based and they're linked to different career milestones. So we call them leadership training programs. And it's a Singapore-based organization. We also support some governments to conduct study trips to Singapore. Very importantly, the work that we do is not sector-specific. So I am first to admit today that I'm not an expert in urban planning or urban design. But we work with governments to build strong organizations and systems. So our belief is that these organizations and systems, regardless of which area of work, are needed to implement public policies effectively and to deliver public services equitably. And so the kind of training we do are the broad-based skills such as policy design, program implementation, futures and scenario planning, strategic planning, strong HR systems, so on and so forth. Maybe I'll just end off with a last comment about who we work with. We work with a range of government agencies, but for myself, we are particularly interested in working with public sector training institutions, whether at the national level or at the state level. As a result, we published a global survey of public sector training just last year. We interviewed leaders of government training institutions from over 30 jurisdictions across 4 continents. And the role of the survey was try to understand the challenges and opportunities faced by these training institutes, to look at the curricular focus areas and the pedagogical approaches employed in training. I'll stop here. I'm happy to talk about any of these issues in more depth later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kenneth. Can I also ask Dr. Rameshwar Rao to give his opening remarks?
Thank you very much. First of all, I thanks to the IHS for inviting me, and Mr. Kenneth and also Dr. Manoj Kumar and all participants. It is audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
I take this opportunity, I wish brief about our capacity buildings, what activities we are doing our Engineering Staff College of India. Engineering Staff College of India is an autonomous organ of the India's largest body of professional engineers. That is the Institution of Engineers, which is established in 1920. And ISKI is the Engineering Staff College of India, was established in the year 1981 with the mandate of providing capacity building, quality training in education, and that is particularly in engineering and also techno management domain. Engineering Staff College of India, it is an ISO 9001 to 2005, ISO 14001 and 2015, ISO 50001 2018, and ISO 45001 2018. Like it is the integrated management system we are having. It is the largest, 8 times the recipient of the Golden Peacock Award for the excellence in training, and latest Golden Peacock also received the training excellence in 2023 by the Institute of Director at Dubai. So ISKI is having the excellent infrastructure and present campus involvement with a lot of greenery, hostel facility to accommodate up to 150 participants, training the classes room and dedicated faculty, but both the in-house as well as the guest faculty we are inviting. And it is recognized by the CEA as a category of 1 training institute. We also awarded the best innovative training provider 2019 award by the Integrated Chambers of the Commerce and Industry for its exemplary contribution towards the capacity buildings. And ISKI is an outstanding provider for continuous evolving global market, responsive trained professional in the field of engineering and technology and techno management research and development of engineers and techno management professionals dedicated for the excellence to deliver the innovative solutions that will be productivity in all sectors of the economy. Every year, we are releasing an annual calendar in the month of April, which focuses the CPDPs, Continuous Professional Development Progress, which combines different methodology to learning, such as learning and workshops and conferences and events and e-learning programs, best practices and techniques and sharing of ideas and site visits and outbound training and education tours also we are conducting, all focused to individuals to improve and have the effective professional development. The ISKI is the only institute in Asian country imparting such trainings almost in all engineering, scientific and also management domain under one roof. This engineering college has more than 4 decades in having the existence and playing an important role to provide the quality, the capacity buildings, the continued professional development programs, especially through applied research activities. And also, we are all programs, whatever programs we are conducting, our ISKI, it is all based on the only feedback mechanism. Each program we will take the feedback based on their feedbacks. Again, we will redesign as per what industry required, what technologies day by day we are changing like that. We are doing that. So many programs based on the feedback, and this providing this CPTPs and specific training programs. Suppose any department they want a specific training program for the engineers and scientists and professionals. Also we are doing and providing quality training, professional excellence in India, and also we are doing abroad. Also we are doing a lot of programs. Because since 4 decades, our panel of experts and faculty are drawn from the multi and interdisciplinary domain, such as environmental and climate change, power, energy, quality and productivity, civil and transportation, information technology and management technology, mining and water resource development. It is the only institution imparting trainings in almost all engineering and scientific and also management. And Hyderabad, everybody knows has a vast experience in conducting, because our ISKI, we are doing a lot of programs. We are conducting the capacity building programs, especially water supply and also sanitation and waste management, environmental impact assessment, environmental and social issues, and power, energy, and quality and productivity, etc. So ISKI, being an empaneled nodal agency for the Ministry of the Housing and Urban Affairs under the various urban flagship programs, just like Amrut and Jal Jeevan Mission, PYMY and Government of India. And also we are conducting various technical programs for the engineers and officials for various states, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, Haryana, Pondicherry, and Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, like that, various states we are conducting, and also carried out the various prestigious assignment of World Bank assignment, including the program for an international organization like UNESCO and UNICEF and PANSA in abroad, and also in India we are doing. And also it is very privileged that ISKI is identified one of the key resource center for the training activities by the Central Electricity Authority, the Ministry of the Roads and Transport and Highways, and Ministry of the Rural Water Supply and the Department of Science and Technology, and also faculty development program for the engineering colleges and also polytechnic colleges in the country. Because ISKI is empaneled now. Recently, we are also empaneled for the Jal Jeevan mission under the government of India. For the next 3 financial year, we will be part of the important mission to provide every household with a functional tap connection and also safe drinking water supply. And we are bestowed with the responsibility of training about all the 3 stakeholders. That is the level 1, level 2. Level 1 means the senior level, and also level 2 means the middle level. Level 3 is the community level. First time we are giving the training for the community level also. The next 3 financial year to fulfill the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister of India. About 300 to 350 our open in-house programs are being conducted every year. An average of 7,000 engineers, managers from government, R&D and public and private sector and educational institutions are trained at our campus. And also we are played an active part in the central government efforts to achieve the national mission objectives such as Swachh Bharat, Amrut, rural water supply, renewable energy, and also solar and initiatives for the skill development programs also we are conducting. And also we are ensuring in the new emerging technologies such as additive manufacturing and climate change and intelligent building, information security, green energy, smart grid, blockchain, IoT, AI. Like that we are doing a lot of programs for the and also we are conducting the especially faculty development programs also we are conducting. We are also encouraging all the trainers to think innovatively out of the box, which could be applied in their own field for the development of our country in general and their own sphere of activities in particular. That is Engineering Top College of India also. We are conducting one prestigious 2 years full-time postgraduate diploma courses. That is diploma course, that is PGDM General Management and also PGDM Infrastructure. We started 2008 onwards that the infrastructure management courses we are running, civil transportation, telecommunication and power IT we are doing. With the specialization that journal also finance, HRM and marketing. Now we are doing the admission. Main this course is the students to be acquiring the what is called appropriate skills, latest concept of the management and what industry is required for the and also international standards to enter the global market to meet the challenges for 21st century. All faculty and panel of ISKI which having the very rich industry academic and research experience in the domain, and we are already having a MOU with 100 university, 100 institutions and also industry, and all industry people we are calling for the taking the classes also. The students have a good opportunity to interact with the national industry experts through our guest lectures and seminars and during their internship also and project works. For the last 5 years, the percentage of placement among all our successful students is almost 90 to 100%. And we are also doing the third party and offering the project consultancy and preparing DPRs in various states, third party quality control, water audit, and also preparing DPRs in all the states we are doing. In addition to that, the Engineering Staff College of India, we are making use the various bilateral agreements between its parent department, that is the Institution of Engineers, India, and also professional bodies in many other countries to further its overall goals and objectives. This is the brief I am explaining again. I will come to what exactly we are doing under the urban domain, what trainings we are giving. Actually, we can interact off sometime.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Yeah, we will not go into the details of what exactly the trainings that you will be doing in the urban sector, but we'll come around it. We'll keep the focus on the enabling environments for capacity development. We'll come around.
Okay.
Thank you. May I please request Dr. Manoj to give his opening remarks, please?
Thank you, Surya, and thanks IIHS for this opportunity to speak today. I represent an organization called KHPT, and before I start, I just want to concur what Anand said. More than the post loans, I think the last panel, to listen to the last panel is much more painful, but I thought the coffee would have helped in keeping up the energy. So KHPT started at 2003 with single mission of preventing the HIV transmission, the infection transmission among the most high-risk groups in Karnataka. And from that point of time till today, two decades of work, and we have been transitioned to other domains like comprehensive primary health care, adolescent health, and tuberculosis, and maternal child health. So in all this journey, actually capacity building is an integral part of all of our work. Although we don't want to be so-called positioned as a capacity building practice owner as such, but that has been integral to our work, particularly working with the vulnerable communities and marginalized communities. Capacity building program for communities is something that we be proud of, and also we make them participate in all our programs throughout. Might be the participants are different, but the community's consultation is something that we being proud of. The second is we believe in a principle of localization of knowledge, and we believe that as best comes from the community. That's why we consult community throughout our program. The other part of the capacity building program that we do is for service providers, for the implementers, program managers. Those kind of designing and delivery of program also we do across Karnataka as well as other states. Particularly now, if you consider it is 18 states that we are present in terms of capacity building programs that we cater. The next batch of group of people that we deliver capacity building program is frontline workers. We believe they are the key interface between the community as well as with the systems. And when I say frontline workers, we have a group of frontline workers being from government as well as from the program institutes. Different program institutes have their community health workers. So for them also cater different capacity building programs on different kind of topics. For example, primary health care, be it health systems. So we cater the program for them. Then the last bit of participants that we cater capacity building program is policymakers. So sometimes it is not really capacity building, it's like sensitization program, bringing them on board in terms of the same line of thoughts, what the program is designed for. Many a times it is public engagement meetings where we consult different kind of policymakers from the different sectors, because health at end of the day, as you know, has depend on many other social determinants. So we actually reach out to multi-sectoral kind of approach with these policymakers and bring them on board. So these kind of the stakeholders or actors are the environment that we work for. Sometimes while working this, talking about enabling environment, we work with media, we work with police, we work with judiciary systems across our programs. So those specifics we might go towards the latter part of the panel, but yeah, those are the things that we work for. And the last but not the least, one thing that also KHPT strives to do is to see actually how more community knowledge could be inbuilt into those programs. So we don't believe in just one-time delivering program. We do continuous capacity building programs and following up that, and we see how community knowledge could be inbuilt to the followed programs. So that's something also we do. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj. Following up with that, I'm going to just make a remark. All of us at some level, when we're talking about public sector capacity development, while we work towards that, we need the support of the institutions, the government. We rely heavily on the governance mechanisms, the institutional arrangements that are in place. So what are the enablers and challenges that you face within this enabling ecosystem, whether it enables or not, in your work, Mr. Kenneth?
Thank you very much. So as I mentioned, I'm a non-profit organization. I work with governments, and of course, the most important thing for me is that the governments are willing to work with us. But I think there are maybe two insights that I would like to, 2 points I would like to make, and they draw upon the findings of the CAG Global Survey of Public Sector Training. I think the first issue is about having some stability or consistency in resourcing for training, in government resourcing for training. Now, over 50% of the survey respondents replied that inadequate resources devoted to public sector training was a key challenge that they faced. And in fact, this was the second most commonly cited challenge from the survey. The percentages are, of course, higher in some places. In Africa, it's a bit higher. In other places, it's a bit lower, but overall, it's 50%. And I think this challenge arose partly because of the COVID pandemic, and as governments all over the world are facing ever-tightening fiscal envelopes. And the problem, of course, is that the benefits of capability development oftentimes won't be felt until many years down the road. So when there's a crunch, the first thing that gets cut oftentimes is training. So I think there are some ways that governments can react or respond a little better. So I think withdrawing funding completely is probably best not to do. If you have to, you have to, but best not to do. And the reason simply is because that capabilities take a very long time to build up, but they can disintegrate and die very, very quickly. So I would, of course, encourage governments to work with NGOs, non-profit organizations, and IOs like ourselves to jointly design and deliver programs. Now, the second thing I think related to funding also to consider is about how there can be a baseline level of subvention given to training institutions, whether at the national or state level, so they can at least maintain some level of program delivery. It's not to say that you give the entire budget, but give at least a baseline level and let the government training institutions raise funds and source funding at the programmatic level. So a mix of baseline funding as well as some sort of competitive funding. I think this creates a very good dynamic and incentive for the training institutions to do better, but at the same time have some sort of assurance that the institute will not die off. That's the first, I think, sort of a comment that I have about resourcing and funding. The second is the second point that I would like to reflect on is about the nexus between training and development and the whole of government policies on talent attraction, retention, and development. I've heard, fortunately or unfortunately, many times, people say that, hey, there's a problem here, let's send our staff for training. As if it is a silver bullet for a strong public service, but it often isn't, because training must be accompanied by systematic ways to identify, groom, and even reward talent. How you pay people, how you promote them, how you identify them for development opportunities. And again, this was a point that was raised in our global survey. We asked respondents to identify the most important factors that will influence curriculum planning, for example. And almost all of them said the alignment with the government strategies, continual consultation with public servants to understand the policies and the requirements was the most important thing. So how do we tighten this nexus between training and development and policy levels? I think there are many ways to do it, but I think one way perhaps is to set up channels for closer coordination and continual dialogue between the training institutions and the government agencies. In Singapore, where I'm from, and the Singapore Public Service, there is, I think, a fairly innovative way. The country, the National Civil Service College, the Dean of the National Civil Service College, oftentimes also holds a concurrent senior leadership position in the government agency that sets public sector HR policies. So that's one practical thing that could be done if it works. Another, of course, is for the governments to set very clear competency frameworks across the whole of government level, but the competency frameworks have to be both fit for purpose, but also fairly detailed for it to provide any form of instructional value for training organizations to develop training programs. Thanks. I will just pause. I will just leave you with these two thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. I have a follow-up question. Have these learnings in any way reflected can you actually think back at your work as a public service officer within the department or Ministry of Higher Education, Skill Development? Do you see that there are gaps, or are they consistent? The findings from the global survey, are they consistent with the policymakers' perspectives? Is there any gap that you find from inside?
Well, I think those 2 points that I raised, about the constant contact between training policy, and training implementation, or leadership development and training implementation, that is something that was not a surprise to me. Is that when we asked participants from the survey, respondents from the survey, and say, what is the one single most important thing, that you feel area of competency that's most important for you? And almost a large majority said leadership. Now, I don't know why that's the case. It could be because sometimes people have different interpretations of what leadership is. And often sometimes people think, oh, the solution to everything is good leadership. Maybe that's why. But I think the other sort of better explanation for this is actually that you can have very strong organizations, very strong systems, very good policies. But if you need to execute it well, then you need very effective and ethical leaders at the top. That could be it. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Now over to you, Dr. Manoj. I have a very specific question. Are there any sector-specific policies or mandates within the government, whether at national, state, or city level, that impact the work that you do? Basically taking capacity building at the grassroots level and then sensitizing the government folks. You're also doing a project with the government on improving governance. So can you reflect on that? Are there any sector-specific lessons that we can take?
Thanks, Surya. I think I'll give 3 specific examples to respond to that. So that depends upon 3 specific set of needs. One is community-based needs. So sometimes we don't go by any framework or protocols. Just by the need only we design and deliver our capacity building program. Sometimes we go by framework, but also at the same time we'll see community at the center. The third one where we see multi-sectoral approach where we have a mix of frameworks as well as the community needs. So the first one, there is a large-scale program that we deliver in 2006 onwards till 2012 as a part of a program called Abahan. And Abahan being a program is actually targeted to the most marginalized people who are high risk for HIV. So we have 3 sets of people at Karnataka: female sex workers, MSMs, and intervention drug users. So these 3 groups we targeted, and around 60,000 FSWs, female sex workers, we actually reached through different capacity building programs. It is a 3-stage intensive capacity development program where we see their perspectives. So to go to even the first panel talk today about it is only skill-based, skill or the need-based. Actually, we went beyond the skill part. We also tried to see what kind of perspective we can actually bring to those capacity building programs. Bargaining power. So we talk of in the third panel, the bargaining power. We saw that also how it could be built. We have the program entirely tailored in terms of not only knowledge, also attitude and practice. How to change the behavior, how they could ask for their needs. One thing we found the major gap that point of time is the violence. The violence against the female sex workers, both from the non-partner violence and the police violence, because most of them are not sensitized kind of what could be a safer spaces for these female sex workers. So we are, I think, one of the first organization who brought out this concept of community-based organizations, where the FSW only lead the community-based organizations in different parts of Karnataka. So that group itself is so large, 60,000 population, the perspective varies. Even within Karnataka itself, the perspective varies. Although the implementation model of the training is unique or similar, but when you go to different parts of Karnataka, the delivery itself varies also. So that is the part where we don't go by any framework. Sometimes the framework also not needed in delivering those programs. So in that program, we have peer-led, for example, peer-led level approach where the female sex workers who have been sensitized in turn actually go back to the community and build their capacity. There are other fellow members. And then we have also legal workshops where they will also sensitize about their rights, gender rights, also a whole lot of destigmatizing the sex work itself. So that itself we brought this perspective. Also the behavior change. So that we were able to brought in those kind of workshops. The last bit is also in terms of participation. There are many committees formed that point of time. If, for example, the District AIDS Society and Committee, where the FSW also lead those committee and they are also part of those committees. So those kind of changes we brought. To enable that, we have actually worked with police and judiciary, because those are the people also part of sometimes the part of the crime. They actually, many parts where police are actually doing the violence against those sex workers and the clients. So we actually have a state-wide training programs for the police as well as the judiciary systems and media also to some extent, where we are trying to sensitize them in terms of how to handle those situations. Also, the community led a community crisis response system where they could have form a small committee, local level committee who could actually respond to. So those sort of, building those capacities in terms of challenging those situations actually brought into the program. So that is something where it is entirely need-based, not really followed any framework. But then we have another program which is around now operating in 18 states with food industry, majorly looking at fortification of wheat and vegetable oil and rice with minerals and vitamins. So that is entirely operated by the framework from as directed by the FSSI, so Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. So they have set of frameworks. We thought of not only training the industries, also training the food safety officers and implementers. So we actually reach out to them and sensitize them. We have statewide rolling out of those programs. We designed those and formed by the particular framework that is suggested by FSSI. The same time, we also have awareness for the consumers and what they could do for getting those services in terms of fortified food. So that is something we entirely go by protocols and frameworks and by the FSSI. So the third one actually is the last example to your question is we bring in the whole lot of multi-sectoral approach to comprehensive primary health care. That is happening in Mysore currently, where it is a more urban-based program where we're trying to take leverage on the CPSC guidelines, which we also consult the framework to develop something called Healthy City Vision. So the Healthy City Vision is a need-based approach where multi-sectoral actors actually converge at the urban space, particularly from health and non-health sectors. We have people from city corporations, we have people from slum development board, we have housing corporation, migration, people working in migration, whole lot of academia. So it is a whole of government and whole of society approach bundled up to deliver the comprehensive primary health care for the Healthy City Vision. And the last but not the least, the JIPA program that you just talked of, that is a kind of you can call it as a supplementary program to the urban program that we do in Mysore. That is across 31 states now we have scaled. That is much looking at the rural convergence part. So where we are trying to build the capacity of the local level governance, which is Gram Panchayat. So through Gram Panchayat task force. So where it is a whole of government approach, where RDPR actually give enablers to GPF task force called Gram Panchayat task force. It is from RDPR department. Work with the health wellness centers of health department. So it is a first of kinds again where 3-4 departments together converge at the Gram Panchayat level to bring those empowerment in terms of Gram Panchayat should lead for a healthy vision. So they do testing, they themselves do. So this is particularly started off with the COVID response, the pandemic response, but now slowly converging into many other diseases like tuberculosis, NCD. They do their own screening, they do treatment, follow-ups, everything by their own, and they have their own bylaws also as formed as we understood. So this is like building capacity at all the 3 levels. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj. I think for me, the most interesting insight was this, the first example that you had given. I mean, when we as training institutions talk about enabling environment, we imagine governance and government arrangements in a way that they are the enabling ecosystem for conducting the training, designing the training, doing a training needs assessment, And then also we then question about what happens to impact. And the training also is done within the government systems themselves. But then the example that you gave highlighted the fact that training can be removed from the government system, but there are sectors or pockets within the government that need to help with the impact.
Yes.
After training is done, for it to actually make some impact within the community, there are different pockets of the government that will have to come in. So that you have identified those and you're working with them is something that's very interesting. I think that's a very unique case. That's also a very interesting insight for us. That's very different from what we've seen throughout the day today. Thank you for that. Dr. Rao, I have a slightly different version of the same question for you. We know that ESCI has done so much work across different sectors within engineering because all of the tie-ups, enabled by all of the tie-ups that you have. First, it is an autonomous body within the Institute of Engineers India that itself gives you access to a lot of technical capacity within your institution. And you also are running the PGDM, like you had mentioned, which is AICTE approved. So you have all of those, technical aspects put in place for getting that approval. So there are those ecosystems, smaller enablers that are letting you do or that are allowing you to perform your activities in such a large scale that you are part of all of these organizations, entities, and such. Can you identify if there are challenges? Not just enablers, but challenges in particular within the institutional arrangements or the enabling ecosystem that you think you're facing in the work that you do at ESCI?
Yes, we are having a lot of challenges. You know that we are having a strong presence of the urban, especially governance, particularly the focus on government, the urban service delivery only. The government of India is already identified as a nodal agency for the training of the training programs, and also capacity building program. We are doing a lot of capacity in various departments and sponsored programs, including preparation of DPRs also. We are conducting a lot of programs in Amrut. So that is scheme 1, like that Amrut 2 PMYK. We are giving the 240 participants. We are giving the soft skill training free of cost for the 240 hours. In all engineering college students, we are giving the out-based training. It should be useful for the students to get immediately some job. That type of training also we are giving. Our institute is now the host institute for MSME. We are also doing some project works for MSME, and this is especially for capacity building programs. We are 24/7 water supply in urban areas, and conducting the electrical campaigning in association with the state government. We are doing a lot of programs, and also urban flood mitigations, the towns and cities, and climate change, urban lakes, and the restoration of the lakes and management, urban flash management, and also climate impact change and the women health, waste management especially that we are doing, and also construction of management in some construction industry, payment technology, including the urban and rural water area roads technology, sustainable under that is the drainage system in all cities and towns, and third party quality control. Already explained, we are doing a lot of states under Jal Jeevan Mission. We are doing the Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, Kerala, and also a special water audit. We are doing software. And also water.
No, Dr. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yes, I mean, we have done one round of this, but can you highlight the key challenges within the institutional arrangements? Basically, I want to know how the government set up the mechanisms that are there, because the work that you're doing beyond capacity building also will have that kind of an impact. Can you throw some light on that?
Capacity buildings demands different kinds of the partnership. Both the parties and contribute their team from the one another, where the focus on two things: the community work in itself, and also effective ways to make the community work. That is the loss to overtime. Sometimes we make the community partners simply want to get the work done, not to spend time also making the challenges that sustainable time over. This capacity building requires a larger period of time to achieve, and also result does not necessarily lead an important sense of the satisfaction. Sometimes the community partners may want to be celebrate and a quick win or feel the sense of the accomplished job well done. So the capacity building focused and sustainable change, which often to the required the underlying the structural power or differences to be addressed. A challenging power structures is often to be more difficult than the addressing this is all whatever the causes underlying the problems, because the capacity building is often the intangible. It is often to be difficult to provide the evidence of its result to be celebrated in impact. For example, we are seeing a lot of things easier to show a photograph and image of orphans freshly painted by the undergraduate, and alternative that is Springs Break. It is the show how the undergraduates work with the grassroots community organization to adopt this orphanage painting as the annual and services project for its community in which it is located. This capacity building is a dynamic. It may be strengthened or weakened over time. So without sufficient capacity development efforts will not be succeeded. Successful capacity development requires not only a skill, it is required skills, reskilling, upskilling, and also deep skilling of the organizational procedure, but also incentives and the good governance is needed, and also cross-cutting nature of the capacity buildings and information on the related activities tend to the fragmental, not rapidly available. And especially funding issues from the donor agencies that is also important, because we are seeing that that funding issue, because the no organization, they are not providing sufficient fund the training. Even under Amrut also, the sponsored training programs for the senior level, we don't get the enough participation. They will participate 100 members, 30 members, 40 members, only attend 15, 20 members. The implementation issue is due to the fund or any other admin problem or political reasons of the local bodies. So making sure that after each training that implementation is happening in that area, then explore, visit the best practices where the training program is conducting, that is need and also required, and additional measures already working urban domain area, water supply, sanitation, wastewater relating issues since 1981, and we following each and every conventional and what technical and capacity buildings for imparting knowledge to the stakeholders we are giving. The sponsoring agency also may support the training institute for the third party check for the and knowledge imparted. The challenge is the biggest because increasing the number of training institutes. We are seeing the number of training institutes are increasing. Some faculty starts their own training programs at their local level. The government of India and state government must restrict and share the proper guidelines to rules and regulations for anyone having the training institution. They should know how to conduct the training, how to design the training then, and this is a better one. The ISKI is good. We are doing a lot of programs since 1981. We have the technical experts in our institution. We are doing our level best to because we are given our SPGS. We are also giving the capacity trainings for the what is as the vision and what is our mission. The director also we are giving training, faculty and also staff and alumni also we are giving. What is the students' participation also we are doing, and what this is all programs. What is the programs and activities, curriculum and also faculty and administrative support. What support is required for the for development of capacity building, and also even library. How the library is maintained, computers, laboratories, classrooms, and faculty, and also visiting faculty we are encouraging, and we are doing our level best for still improving our capacity buildings, our engineering staff college of India. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao, for highlighting that the funding issue exists across different contexts, not just here and elsewhere as well. And it's a very important point that incentives will have to be identified for building capacity and delivering within the public sector especially. We do have this gap across sectors that implementation is not really happening at the pace at which we want. Hence, we are not able to really measure the impact that we have delivered through capacity development. And hence, it's not really feeding back into curating more programs if needed. And it's an interesting point that you have raised, that there are more training institutes that are coming up, which might be a problem, but I think
Not problem, they're not having the experience.
Sure.
And give that guidelines to the training institutes how to conduct the training programs. So that is the main thing. Because earlier there was only one institution here. Now in Hyderabad, in small towns, there are so many training institutes. It's good, but they should have some at least give us some how to conduct the programs. What is the they're having, whether facilities are there and faculties is there, like that we have to see. Then only we can get the good capacity program, building program.
Sure. Thank you. Maybe it just highlights the fact that there is requirement for a lot of capacity to be built, and the existing institutions aren't sufficient, and not just not sufficient, but also that there is scope for other institutions to also come up and address gaps that are not addressed by the typical training institutes. Thank you. Okay, moving to the next round of questions. Here in this panel, we have capacity development practitioners, those who are directly involved in training and knowledge management, in your case, Dr. Manoj. So we're not hearing outsiders' perspectives in a way. We are looking at people who are practitioners within the sector. A lot of people have said what the future of capacity development should be like, what is it that we are lacking, what is it that we are missing, how should it go like, and what is required. But what do you think the practice of capacity development is going to be like in the future? What is required? How do we grow as practitioners, as capacity development practitioners, not just limited to sectoral boundaries, but also a little beyond that? What is required in this sector? May I ask Dr. Manoj to please start?
I think some part of it already we have discussed throughout today. I mean, first of all, it should be based on the community need. That is the first point. It's not like something that we devise and design and then just go to the community or go to any stakeholders and devise. For example, in medical offices, sometimes when as an implementer service provider, we think, oh, they are in a position like whatever training we'll just provide, they'll just take it up. They have their innovations, and as I said to respond to some of the first panel today, they have also their brighter minds in implementers, but sometimes due to power dynamics, they don't able to exercise that. So sometimes also we need to, before even starting of any capacity building program, connecting with them, communicating with them, and need to know their needs and what kind of perspective they could bring to the table. That need to be understood. That is the first thing. That same goes for the community. The second, also to see who is the end user. Sometimes the capacity program might be catered for a audience which is more niche, more intellectual capacities. But end of the day, who actually this entire thing we are doing for, that also need to be seen. Third one is continuous capacity building. It need not be a one-time approach. Many times, particularly, I could at least vouch for the health department and on the health side, public health side, because I work in that space. Many times the program scattered just one time and then stops. Then something new entirely brought up 1 year after, where they don't have any connection with the fast training program or the capacity building program. Those things need to be at least restricted, and more follow-based, more need-based program need to be done more frequently. As we are discussing throughout the day, might be high frequency and low dose kind of thing. Fourth thing could be, bringing this whole digital space, where sometimes, particularly we have seen policymakers and the implementers, they don't actually come to a single platform so easily. So that is the challenge part. Although we are telling enabling environment and there are this sector, that sector need to be brought in. In Mysore, for example, the multi-sectoral approach that we do for Healthy City Vision, actually we, before even starting the program, 6 to 8 months we took only to bring those people to the board. So that could have easily, not relatively about it, by using digital platforms and all. So although this is the first time we are doing and we used a more in-person kind of thing, but could be easily done as we are experienced doing with different policymakers, IS officials, city corporation heads, slum development board chiefs. So while they come to a single platform, also the same time the academicians and civil society organizations are there, they could have all brought in through a virtual kind of platform. So those kind of things we could use. And the last but not the least, the measurement part. So to see how effectively we are delivering these programs. Might we have delivered those programs? What is the end result of it? That we could actually monitor through We have so much talked about the dashboards and all, but we could actually leverage measurement systems and all to see actually how actually in the field it is being delivered and who is the getting benefits out of it. So those sort of things, insights we should bring in. So I think these are the 4 things I could summarize at this point of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj, for the brief summary. Mr. Kenneth, can you shed some light on how we as capacity development practitioners can be prepared as the ecosystem also evolves with the different evolution that's happening within technical sectors? You said, I mean, not being sector specific, but moving forward, what does future of capacity development look like as the ecosystem also develops? How do we prepare ourselves? Does our evolution come first? Will the ecosystem evolution follow? What is it like?
Thanks. Thanks for I love questions about the future because I get to crystal ball gaze, So I think we as a training sector, or rather a capability development sector, can reimagine learning in 3 ways. The first way is actually something that Dr. Manoj has also mentioned. I completely agree with him. It's about reimagining learning as a continual and a lifelong endeavor. Learning should not be seen as a discrete activity taking place at periodic intervals and on an ad hoc basis, but rather learning can be a set of experiences that are connected and interrelated and follow the same person throughout his life. I think many organizations in my area, at least public sector training, have already recognized that. In the Singapore Public Service, where I spent almost 2 decades, they have very structured training programs for in the individuals at different career milestones. Many other governments I've worked with have also recognized the importance of that. So, for example, at the Chandler Academy, we work with the Kenyan Public Service Commission to deliver a 10-month long training program focused on early career public service leaders across the whole of government. Now, the second way I think we can reimagine learning is to reimagine the work and training continuum. We often think too much of work and training as discrete activities happening at different places. So learning in the classroom maybe and work, somewhere in the office. But actually, only 10% of learning takes place through formal training, and this is well documented. Most of it is done by learning by doing, and through observation and mentorship. So I think there's scope to blur the lines between learning at work and learning in the classroom. And what does this mean? It means that as at training institutions, we must reframe learning and draw closer synergies to what happens at the workplace. It means that we must also embed learning activities, structured and curated learning activities within the workplace that then reinforces what is done at the classroom. Now, the Swiss and the Germans are fantastic at that. I've visited them. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of coordination. The employers, the institutions, the learners have to really talk and coordinate, but it is possible. The third way I think we have to reimagine is the how we learn. I think gone are the days where learning was just about lectures in the classroom. And in fact, in the global survey that we did, it was striking that almost all respondents indicated they do more than one form of learning activity. So what is the challenge? I think the challenge is for us to adopt an even greater mix of learning pedagogies. It could be learning journeys to see how policy and public service delivery is done in practice. It could be policy games that simulate real-life scenarios, but actually concretize learning. It could be about case studies to help better contextualize learning. And I think there's also scope to capitalize on the power and reach of online asynchronous learning or self-paced learning. So, for example, at the Chandler Institute, we have developed our own learning modules, each 1 to 2 hours long, but they can be done self-paced and asynchronous. And this then reinforces what the training that we do in the classroom. So in summary, I think we can reimagine learning in 3 ways. One is about reimagining learning as a continual and lifelong endeavor. 2, reimagine in the work and training continuum. And 3, reimagine how we learn. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insights, Mr. Kim. Do we have Rameshwar Rao, sir? But I can't see him. Dr. Rao, can you hear us? Are you still with us? If he is facing network issues, I'm done with my round of questions. Sorry, okay. Dr. Rao? Yes. Can you throw a couple of insights on how, as capacity development practitioners, we can be prepared for the future of capacity development practice, not limited to a sector like engineering, but beyond that? You had mentioned that there are a lot more training institutes and hence trainers coming up. How do we prepare for the future?
Quality training is required, first of all. You need quality training and various result and various programs actively what we are doing by institution. And already I told that these programs must be what exactly required for the department wise. Some programs we will conduct, but it is not required for those participants also. We have seen many things. All participants are coming, they are sponsoring, just coming and they're attending. That type of participant is it loses because only for shake off that because we need some participants for conducting training program. That's why they are coming. And especially that we are also, our participants, we are giving a lot of facilities here in our premises, and they are only just only 2, suppose 5 days program is there now. Tomorrow onwards, we are conducting the 20 days for the military engineering service induction programs. They will stay here only. They will 100% participation and they will take interest to attend the classes. Somebody, for example, Jal Jeevan Mission, they are coming to all senior level. Only the 25% of participants only they will show the interest. Full time they will attend. Otherwise, they will go outside city seeing like that. Some problems we are facing for that. The parent body, the sponsoring body should take and to really whom's require that training, especially for the junior level training, very much need to give the capacity buildings so that they can be utilize their services for the betterment of their department only. That is the best one. And we are also conducting the workshops, seminars are conducting, and also international conference also conducting. For that also, whatever we are calling because today we are doing the 4 programs. Sometimes 7 programs at a time we will do. We will call all of them also, just for inaugural function we will call them, and they will also very happy for attending such programs and seminars, workshops, and like that. Even for site visits also, we are planning for the site visits means only technical, not only technical, other visits also we are conducting. What site we really required to see like that programs also we are planning. And only thing is we are planning, but still we are facing a lot of problems. We are doing, but it is because self-sustainable organization, everything we have to earn only from the training center. If we are not training, it is very difficult to get our even exact salaries also. Whatever the amount is there, bank we are utilizing, but we are not meeting our day-to-day direct, indirect expenditure. For that, we are also thinking we have to change our the pattern of how you training pattern also we want to change. What exactly what is the need, and it should be useful for the society, and also bring the more participants for the training. In that angle, we want to go doing some what is called we have given some consulting and also some stakeholder meeting we are conducting, and we will try to improve that participation so that we can build our capacity buildings.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rao. It's an important point that we should also find different methods, whether we are having focus group discussions or meetings with folks. If we are not able to get actual training needs assessments done within the time frame or with the funding constraints and the other challenges that you had mentioned. So that's an important point. The other challenges that you had mentioned, I think the points that Mr. Kim and Dr. Manoj had mentioned already would still serve as solutions. So with that, I'm done with my round of questions. I'm opening the floor up. Are there questions for this panel? Yeah.
Namaste. My name is Murli, and I am from Namma Cycle Foundation. We are trying to build a capacity for active mobility. My question is to the person from Singapore who did a very good, gave very good insight on the policy gaming. Actually, I think that's where we are also thinking, because most of this tried and tested things like doing a session or workshop, whatever, like module building, 1, 2, 3 tracks, all those things, it fizzles out because there is no involvement. So I would like to get insights on how do we design this policy gaming, and is there any kind of modules where people like us can design games on about active mobility. And second is because Singapore is one of the first, one of the premier cities which has come up with this policy. UMLTA, United Mass Land Transport Authority, also is there, and everything is working in an integrated manner, whether it's cycling, building the metro, everything. And actually Bangalore, 15 years back, Bangalore was a visionary city which wanted to copy UMLTA, and we had something called BMLTA here. Okay, that was formed in 2009. Okay, but unfortunately, the naming we got, the functionality we did not succeed. So I would like to get some insight from you on how to design this policy, and what is your experience on using this gaming, whatever capacity building, for enabling active mobility. Thank you. Active mobility means walking and cycling.
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert in the urban mobility, urban and cycling, but I think I can address the question more from a broader question about policy games. So I think the one advantage of it is not just that participants are engaged. It's also because it's fun. Policy games are fun. So I think the experience we did, I did a policy game in Kenya where we delivered a program, and interestingly enough, they were all very not experienced. They're very young public servants, not experienced. But at the end of the game, they could tell me, I learned this, and they remembered it because it was fun. So a few things that I think that would help. First is that I think the design principles of policy games. One is that there must be very captivating and interesting visuals and videos, as lifelike as possible. It's not so difficult to find. Actually, if you go YouTube, you can actually find it. I think the second is that the learning objective of the policy game must be very clear. It's always not so easy to identify it, but thinking clearly about what the exact learning objective is even more important in a policy game, because there's so many ways it can go. And I think the third thing is probably the facilitator. Because you're working in a very uncontrolled environment, in the sense it can go to many different ways. Some of the potential outcomes or branching points in this game, and then guide the discussion accordingly. I hope that helps. I think it's a fantastic way to learn as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sim. Yeah. Do we have any more questions?
So you are working between the government as well as the community to the reach of that. What are the challenges you are facing? Because, I believe after this conference, even I realized that we are competing each other and conflicting each other to get the bid RFP for the capacity building, whatever we talk. Who are quoting less or whatever it is there, they get the budget and do trainings and everything. So at this point, I thought that we should integrate and work it. It's not the aim of every institute is same actually in a different domain. What you're thinking, because you are working closely with the community. People are telling all our community driven. Today, all schemes, community-centric, participatory approach. They are not talking even technicalities first. So how you face a challenge between the government, because as you are training, they clearly, community says to us that what we want is not what you're training. This is different altogether. So in health sector, that's a sensitive sector, first of all, what you're handling. How you can, there is any possibility that you have given feedback to your counterparts in the government to change any policy interventions or a guidelines or even a circular level? Because if this is not a change, we will get a bang when we train the people there.
Correct.
So you have because sensitive on the public health exclusively. So can you throw a light on this? Whether your feedback from the community has reached out to the government, not in the consultative workshop, directly in the report, and they have second on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's definitely a challenge there, but throughout our program, we also practice something called, in research terminology, embedded research. So we don't believe in working and creating parallel systems to government. So we believe in supplementing the government's effort, but at the same time also is highly prioritize community needs. We believe the objective of any capacity building program should build a resource who should be a contributor of change. So that is something, the belief and prime principle that we follow on. And across our programs, all those needs or kind of, their requirements, we actually note down and actually communicate back to. So it is like a vice versa thing. So we communicate back to government. Just to give an example, in the NCD space, when we start working, we found, might not be only NCD, might be the other health services. The drug stockout is a major issue that we found across Karnataka, particularly primary healthcare systems. So where, although no matter how much modern protocols that we train the service providers and also train the community to get those services, end of the day, the drugs are not available most of the times. So if it is available for a month, it is not really available for the next month. Particularly those people suffering from chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension, it was a huge issue actually. So those sort of things actually try to brought off in different capacities with government over last 2 years. And I should not tell due to that effort only the situation has improved now, but relatively it has improved a lot now in at least the geographies that we are working and the PSCs you are working. So it is also to a part, not only community demand, also the middle officials, the program officials. They also we sensitize like what is the importance of having sustainable drugs. Drugs is just one example. Similarly, other equipments, the consumables, those things, because some invariably they organize screening camps, they're organizing follow-up camps, and sometimes to the extent of 3 different kind of frontline workers converge at the same place. For example, Anganwadi worker from ICDS department, A&M from the health department, and ASA. We're talking from the morning about ASA worker, how important she is, but whether she could also take some of the responsibilities of the AAW Anganwadi worker when she is not there. So those kind of perspectives trying to bring, and their voices we try to reach out to the government through proper platforms. Since from the very beginning itself in the program, we actually consult the government. So capacity building as such, we are not just going for capacity building needs to the government. Because from the very start of the program itself, we actually work with the government, and capacity building program was part and parcel of that from the beginning. So that is the why approach we have took from the very beginning across our programs, and currently also we are practicing that. And some of these examples I give actually reap results to not might be to our expectation, but definitely it has relatively eased out the situation. I think, hope that answers your question to some extent. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. We have one more question.
Yeah, it's for Kenneth. So Kenneth, it was interesting to see how you use the word capability interchangeably with capacity, though they have a very thin line of difference. But and you also quoted that how capability takes long time to build, while they disintegrate very quickly. I think that is the catch where we are looking for the silver bullet. How can we stop the disintegration? Any ideas could you throw on that?
Thanks. You were very astute to realize that actually I only use the word capability. I don't use the word capacity because I think capacity oftentimes connotes resources as well. whereas to me, capabilities is what we're interested in. I don't have an answer to you about how to, I don't have a good silver bullet answer for you. But I think preserving the institutions and the people in charge of the institutions that deliver capability development is probably critical. I have worked in one of the countries that I've worked with. It was a bit unfortunate that there was a organization that was set up to deliver training, but funding cut off, and very quickly and very drastically. And what happened was that people just left. And the organization completely repivoted to do things that were making money, but not quite part of its mandate. So I think there are issues like that that I see. I think if I've seen one case, I think there are probably many cases that are out there. So I guess to me, it's about making sure you preserve the institution and the people that lead the institution. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, I would like to. Oh, there's an online question.
My question is connected to Shubha's questions. So this national training policy, which was formulated in 2012, mandates that 2.5% of salary budget to be kept aside for capacity development activities from each department. Do you think that policy is age old? I mean, it's already 1 decade. Do you think that needs to be reformed? Because the budget issue I saw that it's coming again and again. Do you think that now is it the time to reform that policy itself?
Is this a more suitable question for Dr. Rao? Yeah, for panel 1, yes. Okay, I think we'll reserve that question for tomorrow's roundtables. Yeah. There'll be more people to answer that. If there are no other questions, I would like to close the panel for the day. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Kenneth and Dr. Rameshwar Rao for joining this panel. Thanks a lot. You gave a lot of insightful comments. We hope to keep in touch. Thank you so much.